50% stakes winnings fillies and mares and 50% stakes winnings colts and geldings.
Good crowd here on course at Sandown for the Blue Diamond Stakes meeting. The three Group 1s to follow our next race here, the 125th, 123rd running of the Peter Young Stakes, registered as St George, first run in 1900. It's over 1,800 metres. Again, like the previous, this will be on the hillside. Group 2 weight for age worth $300,000. Last year it was Cascadian Damien Oliver putting on a clinic for James Cummings, defeating Yonkers and Emissary. 2 years ago it was Paradis for Danny O'Brien and John Allen, defeating Shared Ambition and Homesman. Ran third, then won the Australian Cup, and that's significant to know that 6 of the last 8 Australian Cup winners have run in the Peter Young as their lead-up race. Horse 1 is the Melbourne Cup winner, Gold Trip. It was just his second career victory. What a performance it was. He's pretty unlucky not to have completed the Cups double. He was also sensational in the Caulfield event.
That he was. Obviously, the main question mark is he going to be as effective today on a quick track, on a good 3, and obviously resuming. For me, short enough. I think I'll say this: if you like him, I'd wait around another 5 minutes. I think you'd get a bit better price than what you get at the moment.
He's always had a lot of quality about him, there's no doubt about that, and he does race with a bit of a barrel even deep into a racing preparation. I like the fact that he's nice and bright in the coat, but he's definitely a horse that's going to improve with a little bit more racing.
Hutch to Emissary was third in the race last year, and then what a spring campaign. Resumed with victory in the Heatherly over 1,700 at Caulfield, won a Geelong Cup, and then was closest to Gold Trip in the big one.
His form was impeccable, really. Throughout the whole spring, you go through every single run, pretty much, and he stood up. So I'm not surprised to see him come up as the current favourite. It was a little different earlier in the week. On top of the ground, I think it's a real plus for him. And, yeah, I think we're going to see even better out of him this time in, so he's a big chance.
Yeah, he is a horse that races really well, fresh, and looking at him physically today and comparing him to when he was first up in the spring, physically he's in really good order and the same shape. Best thing about him today, though, is that his coat is just in outstanding order. He's cleaned up really nicely. The polish has certainly been put on, and he's got a real spring in his step wandering around the yard.
I think Blake Shin making the trip to Chatura to trial him as well. That's a fair sign of the esteem he's held in. 3 is Numerian, Damien Oliver in the saddle for Annabelle Neesham. Second in the Hill Stakes, second in the Chelmsford Fresh in the spring as well. They were on heavy tracks, but he was a good 5th in the Caulfield Cup.
It was a really good run first up in the Chelmsford, first up last preparation. He's had the 2 trials. The latest was okay. He can roll forward and maybe settle just in behind the 2 obvious leaders, and therefore if he was able to get in, maybe he would get the run of the race, but I've got a few ahead of him today.
Physically, he's a lovely horse. He's nice and strong. He's got good muscle mass, carries himself well in the yard, and he's very relaxed in the way that he's handling himself today. Again, he'll take a little bit of natural improvement out of this, but it's a good return.
4 Young Verder has perhaps reserved much of his best in his career. Second up, he was third in the Turnbull in the spring over the 2,000. He resumed here in the car line behind Pounding.
I love the way he hit the line in restricted room first up in the car line in a high-pressure race. That suggests he's come back well this preparation. Previous 2 second-up runs. Second to Incentivise in a Turnbull, beaten half a length, and third behind Smoke and Romans in the Turnbull during the spring. I guess the real worry with him is where does he get to in the run from that barrier? Is he going to be conceding them too much of a start? Had he drawn a gate to allow him to be closer, he'd be my top pick, and I think he'd be one of the better value chances on the program. He's
come to hand really quickly, and when I saw him first up, his parade suggested that he really wasn't going to take long to get to full fitness, so some really nice improvement made in between runs. He looks really healthy in the coat, just the one strapper on him today, and he's behaving himself nicely. So look, today could potentially be his day. He hasn't won for a long time, but he's looking pretty good in the yard. He needs to run up to his looks.
5 No Compromiser scratching the return to racing of horse 6 Il Paradiso. We haven't seen him since running third in Val Declare's Melbourne Cup of 2019. He was very unlucky on that occasion, and he's now part of the Kieran Murray and Dave Eustace operation.
He looked unlucky not to win the Melbourne Cup back in 2019. He hasn't run since. I thought he'd need a couple of runs based on his trials and the gap between runs. I thought he'd go from 41 and start $101. Interestingly enough, he's been backed into $26. So Jane will be able to sell a lot more than what I will here.
I think what's really key to this horse is he's been off the racetrack for 3 years, but perfectly content wandering around the mounting yard, and like that is such a good sign for a horse that's been away from competition, that he's not at all concerned to be back. In terms of his overall conditioning, I think the team have done enough work at home to see him be competitive here with a bit of improvement to come. He'll take racing to get to race fitness because he's been so long off the track, but it's a super return from him.
7 Surefire second up, the best of his form residing north of 2,000 metres. Second in the Geelong Cup to Emissary before that fantastic win in the Archer on Derby Day. He resumed in the Apollo behind Animo.
And he was out sprinted there in a slowly run race, but he'll be fitter for that run. He's very much suited by the rise in distance. He's got Jamie Carr aboard today, and he just loves firm ground. He gets the conditions to suit today. He draws for the right run. It's the right race for him today, I think.
He is generally a horse that presents well in the yard. He's relaxed, he's engaged, he just seems to do everything right. He has had a run under his belt, which is going to be really helpful here from him, and he certainly doesn't look too far away from getting somewhere near his peak.
Run a very good campaign so far, with Keats pressing his claims for the All-Star Mile. He currently sits 9th in voting ahead of the leaderboard blackout at 10 p.m. tonight, and he's also pressed his claims through his racing. He was excellent in the Carlton.
Yeah, he was. He was very good, sitting just in behind a fast speed, and you'd think he'd take improvement from that run. He can likely roll forward and either lead or sit outside of Deny Knowledge. I think the extra 200 metres is a positive. Only little query would be if that first up run may have left him a bit flat.
Look, I thought he was a little bit strong and above himself in his first parade, which suggested there was a little bit of improvement to come, and he probably needed the run just to take the edge off a little bit. He's been a lot more relaxed in the yard. We're still seeing his usual characteristics, but he's just sort of come back a peg, which I think is a really good sign. It's a better parade today than last start.
9 Yafford, it was hard to miss his return in the last on All Stakes Day behind Here to Shock.
Not surprised, he's been backed at a price. He hit the line really strongly first up in admittedly a weaker race, but he's definitely suited by the rise in distance. He'll probably need a career peak performance to win, and he'll need some luck from the draw, but yeah, he was an eye-catching performance first up.
He's another one that really caught the eye out the back as well, because he is quite a gross type and holds a lot of weight throughout a preparation. That I knew that he had improvement to come first up. It was just how much improvement he was going to take into his next run, and I was really surprised when I saw him early on, because he has tightened up really nicely leading into this, so an improver.
John Allen continues his association here with the daughter of Franklin, horse 10 Steinem for Mar Eustace, and he was bouncing back and forth across the Nullarbor. He'll be riding on a Friday night at the Valley in December, and then making the trip west, and rightly so, given what we saw her do in both the Northerly behind Amelia's Jewel and then that second in the Van Hemst over the 2100.
Yeah, she was very good in those 2 runs in Western Australia over the summer, and she's just a good dry track mare. I think firm ground is the key to her best form, so she's pretty happy that rain slid west and underneath Melbourne so far. Fingers crossed it continues to do so. Should have some residual fitness from that Western Australian preparation, and she gets conditions to suit today. Can roll forward, which is another positive.
And you can see that in the yard too, Ben. Normally she does parade fresh up with quite a bit of improvement still to make, but this is probably the most forward I've seen her in the mounting yard. She's been really nice and relaxed, and as you can see, heading out now with the pony.
And Josh Richards has got a good thing going with 11 Deny Knowledge. Mick Kent's keen to keep that association going, and rightly so, on what we've seen in the last few starts, particularly the Belle of the Turf win and then her 5th in the Carlton to pounding. Yeah,
well, she was entitled to tyre last start. She sat outside the leader on a really fast speed. She looks the likely leader today. I guess the worry has to be if that run may have flattened her, but if she was fit enough and she's handled it and she wasn't flat, then she can give a big side at a big price from the front if she can go at a more controlled tempo.
Physically, this is the best parade I've seen from her this campaign in terms of her fitness and her overall condition. I thought she looked absolutely spot on. She is a mare that tends to have a little bit of a sweat, and as you can see, the team are utilising the pony, getting her to the start. But overall, best I've seen her in the mounting yard.
Race Damien Oliver has collected a record 6 times, including last year aboard Cascadian, Miss Siska, Avilius for Godolphin, Galo Chop, Stratum Star, Mourinho and Fiorente, of course, won this before being the last to complete the Peter Young Australian Cup double in 2014. It's a relatively wide open edition of the Peter Young bin.
I'm leaning to the horses with a run under their belt, and it would have been Young Verta for me if he had a drawn where Surefire drew, but he hasn't. So Surefire is one with Jamie Carr aboard, run under the belt, up in trip, dry ground to suit. I think ticks all the boxes. Young Verta ticks them all apart from. The fact he hasn't won in some time, and now he draws really wide. But I think the price offsets that, so I can back both of those two. Emissary's a gun first up horse, but he's short enough in the market, and Gold Trip's got the class. He's the best weighted horse in the race, Hutch, but maybe would have preferred the rain to have come for him.
Yeah, look, I wasn't super confident about anything in the race, to be honest. I had Emissary on top. I was happy to be with him. He's a bit better priced than what he is now. I'm not sure I'd want to chime in at 360, but Surefire. I think Numerian was a really interesting runner in this field. Lob go forward. I didn't want to be a Gold Trip. Looks like the punters are really steering clear of that galloper at this point in time. So 2-7, 3-1 for me.
I loved the parade of the two Emissary. I think physically he looks very similar to what he did when he won first up last campaign, but he just has a much better coat on him and a really healthy skin. He was a bit backward through the spring, but he just looked outstanding in the yard today, and he had a real spring in his step when he was wandering around. He was very easy to find and really easy to like. So Emissary goes on top. Outside of that, I still think the quality and class in the race is Gold Trip. He'll probably take a bit of natural improvement, but class might help him a little bit here.
Emissary is the most popular runner by way of turnover. 350 your field here. As I mentioned before, there's a great spread of money outside of your 350 favourite. Gold Trip, well, he's a watch and look today, so say punters. 360 out to 550, but Surefire, he's rock solid at the 550. Steinem also tightens up again into that $6.50 mark. The best backed at the price. He was second in the chairman's in Sydney last preparation. Chelmsford, I should say, first up last preparation. He ran second. 11 into $9. Numerian is the push at the price. The favourite, the best back, though. Race 6, number 2. This is the first leg of the quaddie. Get your quaddie on.
Mike Moroney's with us, Emissary tackling the Peter Young for the second straight year. Mike, thanks for your time. Certainly a telltale sign of the esteemed Blake Shin holds this horse in, given he was prepared to head well north of the CBD to trialling Matsutura.
Yeah, well, that just shows the professionalism of Blake. You know, he's we mentioned what we're going to have to do with him, and he was quite happy to go and do it, and grateful that he did go all that way to do that.
The horse has put the runs on the board since placing in this race last year, of course, through the Geelong Cup and the Melbourne Cup performances. But what have you learned about him compared to this time 12 months ago when he ran a really well third?
Learn a lot about him now. We didn't know whether he had a wet ground or not, and he got by in the Melbourne Cup. I think he probably won the ground a little bit better than that, but still went terrific. And yeah, learned a fair bit about him now, and I think he's of age now, as in they're 6 months behind, but I think he's now fully mature, and the best should be in front of him. We're hoping, touch wood, so, but he's done a really great job up to now.
Suffice to say, he strikes much preferred ground today.
He does, and it's a field of similar horses to what he's going to be raced against throughout the whole season, so he's well forward for his first run and pleased us with what he's done.
How do you and Blake see the race panning out?
Oh, look, we don't want to really light him up early. We've taught him to relax, and for that reason, we'll just ride him where he's happy.
Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Moroney with Emissary. Interesting runner in this field, current favourite as well. One that's been kept very safe, Charlotte, is Steinem. How's this man made her way down?
Yeah, good. I went up sides with the Clerk of the Course horse and Steinem, and was just about to have a nice chat to Johnny Allen about how this horse presented. He obviously knows her well, but unfortunately didn't get to have a chat. But what I noted was, he took the pony, or the Clerk of the Course horse, out onto the track, and then gave the horse a really good bowl once he got. I like seeing that. I like it when these stayers, they can really stretch out, have a good stretch before they enter the barriers and really loosen up. And the way the horse moved was very good to see. So just giving Steinem a bit of a push from behind the barriers. But in regards to Gold Trip, he's come back well. He looks like he's matured so much more now. He's got a little bit more sort of strength about him. He was, at the end of, he won the Melbourne Cup, but I just think he's a more rounded horse now. He's certainly gone up a little bit more, and he's got more muscle tone about him. And then the other one is Emissary, who is a clear standout, and I can see why Jane put that one on top.
Okay, well, they're just beginning to load up at this point in time, but the 1,800-metre start, you can see there's a beautiful long run in, so forgiving. Right in terms of pace, Benny, they get the time to sort themselves out. Didn't see a lot.
Yeah, I thought there's two clear potential leaders in Keats and Deny Knowledge. Deny Knowledge probably kicks up, Keats rolls outside. Numerian and Steinem, they can all be a bit closer at this sort of trip. Even Surefire doesn't need to be too far away.
The Peter Young, time on it. Let's go to Matt Hill.
It was a massive campaign to get Keats into the All-Star Mile, and that's what the race is all about. Trained by Gavin Bedgegood. going around here in the Peter Young, and Gold Trip standing very quietly. A real professional, this 6-year-old. About to join them, and Young Verta will be the last. Starter heads over to the platform as Gold Trip goes in. Gold Trip takes that centre alley, and Young Verta takes the outside. They are ready to run. The Peter Young on the hillside track at 1,800 metres. Gates are back and away. Il Paradiso last out. Numerian Keats jumped quickly with Deny Knowledge. Young Verta got to 4th. They were followed by Yaffet. Emissary the inside. Next in the field, Steinem, a couple of lengths away. 3rd last, Surefire. Then came Gold Trip, and at the end, Il Paradiso. Deny Knowledge the leader, led by a half length to Keats as they reach the 1,400 metres. The leader wants to go a bit quicker. A length and 3/4 away, Numerian, followed by Young Verta, who slotted into a nice place. 4th one off the fence. 2 further back is Steinem, a length Emissary, and then came Yaffet. Surefire as they string out. Gold Trip would be enjoying that 2nd last, and Il Paradiso at the end. So Deny Knowledge is tearing off on Josh Richards here as they run off the back section with 1,000 metres to go. And Deny Knowledge, it looks as though the saddle's almost shifted as well, and led by about 5 lengths. Keats is 2nd, 5 lengths away, Numerian, 2 lengths Young Verta, and they were followed next in the field by Steinem, a length and a half Emissary, and Yaffet. Surefire, Gold Trip, and at the end Il Paradiso. So Deny Knowledge comes up towards the corner at the 650, leading out by 5 lengths. Keats is 2nd, 6 lengths Numerian, Young Verta. Then came Steinem, who starts a move to the middle of the course. Back behind those Emissary, and then Surefire. Gold Trip still 2nd last, so Keats has got up on the inside and taken the lead at the 400 metres from Deny Knowledge, who'll sleep well tonight. The saddle certainly shifted. Emissary got to 2nd, Steinem the outside, followed by Numerian, Gold Trip. Keats in front. Is he vulnerable? 200 metres to go. Still led 2 lengths to Steinem, wearing it down, followed by Emissary, Gold Trip. Keats 100 to go, stopping. Coming at it, Steinem with Gold Trip. They hit the line. Steinem's got it from Gold Trip. Keats, Numerian. Next in the field, Emissary. Then came Yaffet, Young Verta, Surefire. Next in the field, Deny Knowledge. Nightmare ride for the rider, and at the end of the field, Il Paradiso.
Yeah, you feel for Josh Richards aboard Deny Knowledge with the saddle potentially slipping there, but what an effort from Steinem. Mar Eustace Quinella, the Peter Young. It's a bottler of a return from Gold Trip, who we perhaps thought didn't have the conditions to suit today. He's run outstandingly well, but Steinem, who perhaps had a little bit of that fitness overhanging from going well into December for those excellent runs in key staying and middle distance events in Perth events. John Allen was keen enough to keep hopping on a plane and continuing to stay connected to, well, that association's paying dividends for him, because he's taken out the Group 2 Peter Young, and the mares have won this race 3 of the last 4 years now. They've certainly had a rich vein of it in the last couple of years, with the likes of Miss Siska and Paradis taking it out. 10, 1, 8 and 3 your numbers in the Peter Young as the Australian Cup picture takes a little bit more shape.
Well, it certainly does, Nigel, and well, a bit of fireworks there, wasn't there, Ben, with obviously the saddle slipping. Throw the maps out the window at that point, and it became a real test of stamina late. Different stages, looked like there will be different winners. Steinem ended up too good. Keats so brave, left out in front a long way. Gold Trip, the Melbourne Cup winner, what a return from him, but yeah, it had it all, that one.
It sure did, and we think of the Peter Young in previous years, some of those additions Nigel mentioned, slowly run races, on-pace horses, just in the right spot, but it was anything but this year. It was an unfortunate situation for Josh Richards. Looks like maybe the saddle had shifted, but what it created was a really fast tempo, and from a long way out, Steinem was travelling like the winner, and she's done a terrific job. Dry ground, the key to her best form. Kieran Maher, another victory at Sandown today, catching up with Nigel again.
I'm not sure who's had many or more hugs requests in Melbourne in the last 24 hours, Harry Styles or Kieran Maher. There's a veritable sea of people behind our cameraman Hilly here. Kieran, what a thrill. Get to the winner in a moment, but Gold Trip's back with a vengeance. He was magnificent.
Yeah, he's been just the last month, he's really come on. John, my mate, and his farrier's here. He's sort of the main. I don't know what's wrong with me. That's the main thing with that horse, and to have him in that sort of order, first up, on a track like that was amazing. So the team have done a great job. Mitch, our foreman, he straps him, and everyone else have done a super job. Lucy's not here today, but she does a huge amount with the stable, and yeah, everyone that's involved.
Well, the emotion you're showing there in relation to John is, I guess, your appreciation of his craft as a farrier that allows Gold Trip to do what he's done there on a good 3.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, he's a great mate, and you know, I come down to Caulfield, I only had a couple of horses, and you know, I didn't know him, he didn't know me, and you know, it's sort of, we got to where we got to now, and yeah, he's the best at his craft, and yeah, it shows the way the horse let down.
Steinem's done a wonderful job, and the team have kept her on the boil coming off Perth and at least having a little bit of that fitness. 2.5 months, the best part between her runs, but still clearly enough in the tank.
Yeah, that was the idea, to have her right for the Australian Cup and have that residual fitness. That's why we didn't go to the Perth Cup. We opted to bring her home and target these races, and I was really confident with her today. I said during the week on the radio that I thought she was the one, you know, good track, fast tempo. I couldn't believe her odds, and yeah, Johnny Allen, he rides that mare really good. She can be a bit quirky in the barriers and different things like that, and super ride. You could see he just waited like, I was like, come on mate, Keats is off and gone, and it was super. So no, fantastic. And again, Darren Dance, Frank and Christine Cook, the heap of owners here, as you can see, in the horse, great supporters, and she sort of went missing through those when the tracks were wet. She really enjoys these firm tracks. There was a bit of pressure building on me, but I think it's starting to sway my way.
Yeah, well, you had to stick fat with her and be a bit patient, because she's come of age after having so much talent, and you put her into an Australasian Oak so early in her career, but it's been a while coming. But what have you seen emerge from her that's seen her furnish in the way she has?
Well, she just kept developing every year. She just gets bigger and bigger and stronger, and you know, I suppose Johnny he would be able to attest to that, but she did show that ability early, and we did put her in that race that you said, the Sweps Oaks. I was a little bit disappointed, but yeah, I think she'll repay us.
Kieran, well done on the Quinella.
Thank you.
Welcome in John Allen, who gets it done aboard Steinem in the Peter Young. Johnny, you got an opinion of her that you were prepared to jump on a couple of transcontinental flights in December to maintain that association, and it's paying off. How have you seen her development to produce what she has today?
Yeah, look, obviously produced a couple of great runs over there. You know, and it can be hard for filly sometimes to travel the whole way and come back again. So that, look, great testament to her temperament. She's obviously very well bred, and yeah, as Kieran said, she was as big and strong as I've sat on her this time around, so she's really developing, and yeah, look, she had to be good and tough there today. Obviously, it's been a while since she's won a race, so just made sure she remembered how to do it, but she was good and tough today.
Did you have a look up a couple of times and somehow see Deny Knowledge way in the distance, knowing there was plenty of pace about?
Yeah, no, we were fairly rocking along. I was confident a few horses in front of me were some of the dangers that would give me a good trail into it, and yeah, I'll probably expose her a little bit early, but she dug it out late. I could kind of see one coming over my shoulder. I saw it was Gold Trip after pulling up, but no, to her credit, she really stuck her head down and battled.
No reason not to push on to an Australian Cup with her?
Yeah, I'd imagine that's the plan. Obviously, she's a valuable filly, and I suppose if she could get a Group 1 on the board, but she'd even be more valuable.
Johnny, well done.
Thank you.
An absolute superstar, isn't it?
Great result there for Kieran Maher and David Eustace, the Quinella at Sandown. Morphettville race 6. When the Dealin's Done's the heavily backed favourite here. $2.25 with Sportsbet. She's betting at $6. Double figure odds.